Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another March Madness video. Today I'm going to be taking a look at some potential Cinderella teams. And there are a few key factors that I look at in terms of identifying a team that is a lower seed that I could see possibly making the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, something like that. We saw Florida Atlantic do it last year. I look for elite guard play, I look for upperclassmen, and I look for explosive offenses along with decent analytics overall. Maybe the team analytically is better than their record suggests. The first team we are looking at, it's really the team that's kind of the talk of the town right now. It is Florida, coming off their impressive win over Alabama. Not a great defensive team, but right now analytically they are inside of the top 20 just barely with a 21-9 record. You can see recently a lot of green on that right side, the game score, and a lot of green in terms of their offensive efficiency as well. This is a team that is guard heavy. They do have a top 15 offense in college basketball. They're a very fun team to watch. High tempo, high scoring. Would not surprise me at all. Depending on where they're seated, they might be a 6, a 7 seed. I think a lot of people, and maybe me included, will be picking this team as one of our lower seeds to make a run to the Elite 8 depending on where they get seated. But they do have a lot of elements of the type of team that can profile and possibly upset a 2 seed in the second round. If they are a 7 seed, they get a 7v10 matchup. Then they face a 2 seed in the second round. Would not be surprised at all if Florida, based on their overall roster structure and how they've been playing recently, was able to make a deep run as a lower seed, like a 6 or a 7 seed in March Madness, possibly making it all the way to the Elite 8, maybe even the Final Four. I mean, you never know recently with some of the teams we've seen make the Final Four. The next team, this one profiles a lot more kind of as like a normie Cinderella team. It is Indiana State. So Indiana State out of the Missouri Valley. They had 2 losses late in the season. If they would not have lost those games, right now they would be 28-3. They would be a top 20 team. They'd probably be like a 6 or a 7 seed. Analytically, they are 43. They play in an easy conference, obviously. They did have a very brutal showing against Illinois State where they had a game score of just a 9. That's going to happen. It is what it is. It is kind of a red flag, but this is a Cinderella team. It's not like this team is going to be undefeated. They are expected to possibly be in that 12v5 game, maybe an 11v6 game, and they do have college Jokic is what they call him, Robbie Avila. The narrative of having a star player, he's not a guard, but still, you can understand and you can kind of picture a team like this going on a crazy run in March, like making the Sweet 16, maybe making the Elite 8 as an 11 seed. You face a 6 seed in the first round. They are a top 25 team on offense, and they are a ridiculously good free throw shooting team. They're a ridiculously good 3-point shooting team, almost 40%. Very impressive, and they shoot a bunch of threes as well. I really like the profile of the Sycamores of Indiana State to possibly go on a deep run, facing a 6 seed in the first round, and then moving on, possibly as a Sweet 16, maybe an Elite 8 team, depending on how their bracket shakes out. Next, you do have Florida Atlantic, so this is a team we certainly have to pay attention to. I think Florida Atlantic is either going to lose in the first round or at least make the Sweet 16. It's just one extreme or the other for FAU. They've had a very inconsistent year. They had a crazy good early season win against Arizona. Now, it was double overtime and it was only by a point, but still very impressive. This is a team analytically, they are outside of the top 50. Dusty May possibly getting a big time coaching job next year. You have the coaching narrative that they have a very good coach. So I could see FAU going deep into the tournament. Again, although this is a team, I must say, I might pick them to lose in round 1. They're just very inconsistent. It depends on their matchup. I probably would end up picking them just because they've got really good upside for being, an 8 seed. But they're an interesting team to watch. Another Cinderella run. It is possible. Moving on to the next team. It is, believe it or not, Northwestern. Now, I understand people say the Big Ten sucks in the tournament every year. Pick against Purdue. Pick against Illinois. Northwestern is a team with Chris Collins having a very under-the-radar year. Yes, they are only 11-7 in Big Ten play, but they have a very senior-laden team. They are led by an extremely experienced point guard, Bo Blue, who's been phenomenal this year. They did just lose to Iowa at home. That's kind of a red flag, but Iowa did shoot 10 of 20 from 3. Northwestern is a team where they've made the tournament several times, but they haven't broken through and went on a crazy Cinderella run. If they get the right matchups, believe it or not, Northwestern is an offensive team, and they're a ridiculously good three-point shooting team. And they also, if you look at the three-point percentage against them, 314th, that suggests they're getting very unlucky defending the three. Now, you could also say, well, they're just leaving a bunch of guys open, and maybe that's the case as well, but when I see something like that where they shoot the three ball really well, I'm interested, and they've also got a very low turnover rate as well, so they're not giving up the ball very much. They're a very fun team to watch, believe it or not. Possibly an 8v9 matchup. Nobody is talking about Northwestern. Both Northwestern and FAU possibly involved in 8v9 games. Imagine if they faced each other. Northwestern's a team to watch, guys, when it comes to the tournament. The next team is St. John's. St. John's is a very polarizing team. The analytics love St. John's. People have them on the bubble. Some people have them out of the tournament. They are only 10-9. Analytically, they are number 22. They have the coaching narrative. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Rick Pitino went on a run to the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8. Recently, they've been on a tear, and they are going to crush Georgetown, I'm sure, at home to end the season. So they are going to finish 19-12. Now, will they get into the tournament? I think it's quite possible. Will they have to play in the first 4? That's where things get a little bit murky. Because the issue is, this is a team that has a lot of upside. The problem is, when you have a team that plays in the first 4, can you really commit to a team like that? They've got a great offensive rebounding percentage. They get a ton of extra possessions. Unfortunately, they don't go to the line at all. One of the worst free throw rates in college basketball. But this is a team that, at least in terms of analytics, is very sought after. They are an 8 seed in terms of analytics. That is obviously not going to happen because, the analytics are going to overvalue them in terms of their ranking relative to their record. Their record is not good enough for an 8 or a 9 seed this year, with the bubble being relatively stronger. But this is a St. John's team. I just hope they're not involved in a first 4 game, because it's going to be miserable to try and predict them to beat a team within the first 4 and then go on a run. This is why I hate the first 4, because we're predicting teams to possibly win their first 4 games when they're not even in the field of 64, and then win multiple games after that, like UCLA did a few years ago when they made that crazy run from the first 4, I think, to the final 4. So it's just, I hate the first 4 in general, but I'm guessing St. John's will be there. Now, when it comes to a true Cinderella team, I'm talking 14 seed, 15 seed, Princeton of last year, can a really low seed upset a 2 seed, possibly make the Sweet 16. The team I would go with, believe it or not, it is High Point. Now, High Point is out of the Big South Conference right now. They are 24-7, 13-3 in conference play analytically at 120. They just lost to Longwood by 2 points. Tough road game. It is what it is. It's going to happen with a mid-major team. The reason I like High Point so much is they profile as an offensive team, top 40 in terms of offense. They have a really good offensive rebounding percentage, and they have an extremely good free throw rate, top 5 in the entire country. When it comes to metrics like that, though, it can be a little deceiving considering the conference that they play in. But still, you're also talking about them shooting 78% from the free throw line. So not only do they get to the line at a ridiculously high rate, they make all of their free throws. This is a team that I could see, in terms of upside, possibly upsetting a 2 seed or a 3 seed. For me, it would be High Point University, believe it or not. I don't love the profile of Appalachian State. I don't love the profile of Grand Canyon. Now, High Point might not even make the tournament. It just depends on if they win. They're expected to win their conference tournament, but they're a team that I'm watching. I think they're probably going to be on the 14 line right now. But when I look at some of these 13 seeds, I'm not loving the profile. Most of them profile as defensive teams. And if you think one of those teams is going to upset a 3 seed, that's fine. But I tend to go more towards offensive teams that have high firepower, that can really put pressure on top seeds and possibly get up early in games. There's no real scientific way to do it. Nobody really knows. Nobody thought FAU was going to make the Final Four Loyola Chicago to make the Final Four. This is just my opinion on the data set that we have right now. It would be High Point University, the lower seed that I would consider possibly getting that 15v2 upset, the 14v3 upset, something like that. And then if they win that game, normally teams on the 14 line, the 15 line, they're able to parlay that into a deeper run. Also, another team that I'm not too high on right now, at least analytically, Akron University is another team I'd probably stay away from possibly getting one of those upsets. This all also does depend on who gets the lucky matchup to where maybe there's a weaker 3 seed, maybe there's a weaker 4 seed. It depends. There are some 3 seeds that I like a lot better than others, and it's going to depend on which team does High Point actually face. If they face the right 3 or 4 seed, I'm good to go with possibly predicting an upset, because you're going to need at least one 14/3. I will say, when it comes to the emphasis you put on upsets, they're really overrated in terms of how good your bracket can be. It's better to just pick the favorites and make sure you get the favorites right, especially in the Final Four. That's the most key thing when it comes to winning these type of, bracket contests and things like that. And then the final team, this is one that I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people picking. It is Michigan State. So Michigan State profiles with Tom Izzo as the typical team that has some lapses during games. Their record is way worse than what it should be. They end up getting into an 8v9 matchup. They're that crazy high upside 9 seed that ends up beating a 1 seed, makes the Sweet 16, and then parlays that into an Elite 8 run, a Final Four run. That could certainly happen to Michigan State. They're very inconsistent, but they really don't profile as a negative team in really anything. And I think a lot of this is going to depend on Michigan State's region and the type of draw that they get. And you can see right now, the analytics say they're a 7 seed. They're going to be lower than that. They're probably going to be, imagine they're in an 8v9 game and they face a 1 seed in the second round. It's obviously not going to be Purdue, but, them in the second round against a Tennessee, that is not a fun matchup for Tennessee. Let me just say that. If Tennessee ends up being a 1 seed, Arizona is another one that's going to be very annoying. So this is a team, certainly, I'm not breaking any news. A lot of people are going to be picking Michigan State as a low seed to be their Cinderella team. This is an Izzo team. This is a team that has, in terms of the analytics, a crazy high upside to go on a deep run, and I'm sure they're going to be picked a lot as a lower seed to make a far run. Either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.